Welcome back and thank you for tuning in to Naijha Speaks. I'm Naijha Wright Brown, co-owner of the Land of Kush Vegan Soul Bistro in Baltimore and executive director of the Black Veg Society. I have two fabulous guests with us today, and the topic we're talking about is, do animal rights vegans care about their health? How are you doing today, Dr. Mills and Nancy? How's it going?
Well, I'm finishing up a long day in clinic, so I'm, a little worse for the wear, but I'm pretty good.
All right, awesome. Well, let's start with this. Dr. Mills, since you're saying you're at work, what is your line of work and why did you become vegan?
Oh, okay. So I am an internal medicine physician, and I also do intensive care unit work when I work in the hospital. And I became plant-based slash vegan for health and spiritual reasons. And meaning that I became convinced that plant-based, that human beings are natural plant eaters, that is the way God designed us to eat, and that is the healthiest way for us to eat. And that not only does it benefit us physically in terms of promoting the best overall health for us as humans, but it also benefits us spiritually by giving us the clearest mentation, which will translate into the best spiritual connection with God. And so for all those reasons, and I guess you could say, in some ways, weighted more towards the spiritual side of it. I decided that being plant based was the best choice for me.
Thank you for that. Nancy, can you share with us what do you do and why did you become vegan?
I have a business I started in October 2017 called Botanicuisine, Plant Source Dining Outreach. And it originally started to try to get more plant based vegan food into restaurants. It was still just starting to come more into mainstream then in terms of being in restaurants, but it was a tough sell. So then I morphed into hosting public events and having a booth at farmers markets where I would bring literature and have conversations and sell vegan food. And then just last May, I started my own vegan food making specialty business. And I've been selling that at farmers markets and events. And I'm going to start branching out into restaurants as well now too. And that's how do you get people to eat vegan food? Well, you give it to them, make it available, make it delicious and healthy. And I believe like every kind of food needs to be vegan at this point. But I do understand that in terms of health, an entirely whole food plant-based diet is the healthiest, the only truly healthy one. And I've learned so much about nutrition and agriculture and all of these things that are affected by food that I never thought about before. So what got me going was I saw undercover videos of animal agriculture and I was absolutely devastated, just stunned. And I said, I'm going to find out about this. And I did. And I researched everywhere. And I went to so many different kinds of sites and came across so many people. I came across Dr. Mills a number of years ago and I've been to some of your talks and they're just fascinating talks. And so it became a kind of a life mission for me now to help educate people and help bring the joy of living this way. So it's a very, to me, it's a wonderfully gratifying way to live.
Awesome. So, what is your understanding of veganism and its relation to health? What are each of your understandings, starting with you, Dr. Mill?
So for me, I think that veganism has three pillars. There's health, animal rights, and the environmental impact. But those three pillars rest on the fact that human beings are natural herbivores. We are natural plant eaters. And because of that, that is why being vegan or plant-based, and I'm going to use the term vegan and plant-based interchangeably to essentially mean the same thing.
Okay.
But that's why being, a vegan or plant-based is healthier for us. That's also why it is better for the environment, because that is our true ecological niche as plant eaters. When we occupy that niche, we don't destroy our environment. And then, of course, if we are eating plants, we are not abusing and mistreating and killing the other creatures that we share this planet with. But there's something even a little more interesting about that, and that is we humans make a big deal about whether or not we are treating animals humanely, or whether or not we are killing them humanely, or and we use all of these euphemistic terms. Well, are we sacrificing them humanely? And which I think is a really, really large load of equine excrement, because there's no such thing as a humane sacrifice. I mean, there is no human being on this planet that you can convince that if you take their life, no matter how you do it, it's humane. I mean, nobody wants to die. Okay.
Right. I could agree with you on that.
Yeah. And I don't care, whether you do it with pillows covered with lace and symphonic music. It's like nobody wants to die. And so however we do it, it's a cruelty that you visit on someone. But what's interesting is that carnivores never ask that question. When a lion gets ready to eat, it doesn't say, well, do I need to kill this antelope humanely?
Right.
Is the way, I eviscerate this buffalo cruel? And the reason they don't ask that question is because they don't have that concept.
Right.
Because they are meant to kill in order to live.
Right.
The reason that's an issue for us is because killing is truly antithetical to our intrinsic nature. We have, as part of our 6 basic emotions that we're all born with, an emotion called disgust. And our disgust emotion, which is one of the emotions that we are born with that helps us survive both as individuals and as a species, it has 3 domains. It has a pathogen domain, which is designed to keep us from ingesting things that could kill us. It has a moral domain, which is designed to help us avoid behaviors that will cause us to destroy each other. And then it has a sexual domain, which is meant to keep us from sexual pairings that will weaken us as a species. And so sexual discuss, covers things like incest, pedophilia, and things of that nature. Pathogen disgust keeps us from ingesting things that are rotting, things that are putrid. It also, interestingly, includes things that are bloody, things that are mushy, things that are covered with flies and hair, things that have an amorphous shape. In other words, raw flesh, which is why, and this is a topic for another conversation. And I would direct people to my lecture, Meat Eating and Mind Games, but it's why, as humans, we have to change the way animal tissue looks and smells and tastes in order to make it acceptable to us. We
Right.
actually try to make it look and taste and feel like plant products in order to make it acceptable to us. But the moral aspect of disgust is why we come up with all of these convoluted ways of trying to justify visiting harm on these animals so that we can overcome our innate reticence to harming and hurting another creature, because it really is antithetical to our nature. And most often what we do is we download that behavior to butchers and other people so that we ourselves don't have to do it. And we put it off into slaughterhouses and move it out of our eyesight so that we can pretend it's not happening. And then we go to the supermarket and we get the stuff in these nice little packages that look nothing like the creature it came from, and we play these games so that we kind of pretend that, well, this wasn't once a living, breathing animal, when in fact it was.
Right. Nancy, what is your understanding of the veganism and its relation to health?
In relation to health, well, I also use vegan and plant-based interchangeably, and I recently wrote a piece about that because I spend too much time on Facebook, I spend too much time online, but I see all of these points that people go, well, they're vegan, they're not, you're either vegan or plant-based, and if you're just plant-based, and people kind of tend to look down their noses at somebody who's plant-based. But the plant-based food movement is vital for the success of the vegan movement, because the plant-based movement has people like Dr. Mills and people like you and me and other physicians, and reaching into politics and so many levels to get plant-based food out there. Whereas the animal rights issue is part of our moral code, but I don't see that animal rights or that as something right now motivating people to switch their diet. It has to be something that's more direct of why people make food choices and what is it that people enjoy about eating. And from what I've seen, it's really pleasure and social connection. So back to, vegan versus plant-based, I am thoroughly convinced, as Dr. Mills just so eloquently stated, that an entirely plant-sourced diet is the only healthy diet. Not only is it the healthiest, but we now know that animal products of all kinds do specific damage to our bodies. And so those things are so important to know and understand. And those things I also try to educate people as well. I know, Dr. Mills, you have some great talks on that too. And that's the plant-based food movement, coming at from a scientific point of view, from a practical point of view, from an institutional point of view. Now we know in New York City, they're going to have vegan meals on Fridays, and they're going to have vegan food, plant-based food in hospitals, and all of these things that's really going to push people away from eating animals. And the environmental aspect, I had a really strong hunch when I went vegan in 2014 with the tons of research I did, that the environment was going to actually be probably the biggest pusher to get off of animal agriculture, because we're cutting off the branch we're sitting on.
Right.
We'll see that. And as much denial as there still is right now among people, I think it's going to be a pretty short time. I think we will see the near end of it, even in the next 10, 15 years, because the earth can't sustain past that. The environment's already getting destroyed, and it may just be that they just won't be able to raise all the plant, because these animals, you have to feed them lots of plant foods. They're all plant eaters.
Right.
I said to people, they go, oh, I never thought about that before. I said, yeah, well, they're getting all their nutrition from plants, so we can too. And there's a few things that are in muscle tissue. And when I call it like muscle tissue or flesh, people get, like you were saying, that disgust. It comes up, people get very defensive, like, oh, don't call it that. It makes me feel bad. Like, yeah,
let's get to why we're here.
Okay.
Dr. Mills posted this not too long ago. It wasn't 3 days ago, but this is a snapshot. Do animal rights vegans care about what they eat? And we interpret that as their health, right? Dr. Mills found it distressing that so many vegans don't seem to care what is in the food they eat, as long as someone convincing convinces them it will save an animal somewhere. This is how we have arrived at the absurd place where so-called vegans are willing to eat animal contaminated food to allegedly save other animals. Hence, they don't care about KFC contaminating the Beyond Chicken they sell with dead chicken grease, blood, and protein fragments. I really don't understand this. Dr. Mills says, why can't we normalize cooking vegan food separately? It's not that hard. And he talks about the hospital where he works, the grill, and how they go on. Can you elaborate on that, Dr. Mills? Because this is the second time we've had you on a provoking statement. So we want to hear what your thought was and where we're going with this.
Sure. Yes, because when the great debate, and I'm spelling that GRATE, debate started about the KFC Beyond Nuggets, a number of and Nancy, I am not talking about you, but a number of vegans that I know came out and said to me, well, I think it's all about harm reduction. And they kept using that term, harm reduction, that I think that by making these KFC nuggets available, even though they're not technically animal product free, if they are cooked in the same material as the chicken's cooked in, that we are reducing the number of chickens that are killed. And I'm number one, I'm not completely sure that that's true, but beyond that, my point is that we as vegans, we as people who are plant-based, have a right to expect, to demand that the things that we are served, that the food that is proffered to us by establishments like KFC and other chain restaurants and so forth, should be prepared without adulteration. And one of the reasons that I think this is so important is, number one, the plant-based movement is growing by leaps and bounds. It is one of the most rapidly growing movements around the world and in this country. That is one of the reasons KFC and other chain restaurants have started to take notice and are starting to offer more items to people who are interested in becoming plant-based. And my concern is that if we start off basically telling them that we're willing to accept adulterated food products, that it's going to go from bad to worse. And there's already reports of companies offering so-called almond milk that doesn't have any almonds in it. That is just a collection of almond taste, almond flavor, and a bunch of chemicals that's made to look like almond milk, but doesn't have any actual almonds in it. Wow. And while you may argue that, well, if people buy that, they won't be buying cow's milk, and that may save some calves. The fact of the matter is that if people start buying these adulterated, essentially poisonous products and find that their health suffers, they're going to pull back from the plant-based movement. And they're ultimately going to say, you know what? I tried to go plant-based and I bought this, this almond milk, and I ate this, so-called plant-based burger that really didn't have any plants in it. And I got sick as a dog. And I had to give it up because my health suffered, and I had to go back to eating meat because I didn't do well. And that will, in the long run, harm the movement. And the fact is, we don't need to do that. We can insist on that that people prepare plant-based products in a manner that has integrity, that is healthful, so that the benefits of being plant-based are made manifest, and that people who convert to a plant-based lifestyle can enjoy the benefits. And it's not going to require a huge amount, or that much of more of an investment on the parts of these companies, and ultimately everyone will benefit in the long run, including the animals.
And before I go to you, Nancy, I wanted to comment on what Dr. Mills said, because when I started the Black Veg Society, at that time it was the Black Veg Society of Maryland, so we were really focusing on Baltimore and surrounding areas. Folks would come to me at a certain point and have this enlightenment that there's an understanding that vegan food and plant-based food is different, because they would go out and they would eat the Beyond Burgers, the Impossible Burgers, whatever commercial products, and all of that stuff is really good. But I think I always say anything in overconsumption can be bad for you. But this is what they were taking as vegan food and eating it all day, every day, and then going to the doctor, and now the sodium is out of whack, and all the stuff is out of whack. And I had to say, whoa, wait a minute. No one said, I definitely didn't say vegan as a whole is healthy. Especially now learning through Dr. T. Colin Campbell's plant-based nutrition course, whole food plant-based is healthy. So, we got to really be careful about how we're pushing the message here. Yeah, there's no cholesterol, but I think anything over processed that you're eating all day, every day can be bad for your health. Okay. Nancy, what is your take on Dr. Mills's post?
Oh, okay. Well, we had a lot of exchange on that post back and forth, and I think it's such a great point that he's making. I think it's vital that he's making that point. I agree that we need to make sure that the food that is served that's vegan for us is truly vegan. But one thing I understand about these plant-based meats is that they're specifically designed for people who are not vegan, so they will eat these instead of eating animal products, and that's working pretty good. There are also a lot of vegans like myself that I do enjoy them now and then, but I think it is important that people know how to eat healthier, period, and most people don't. And that's more of a cultural issue than one that we can just solve by, everybody go vegan. I think it also, vegan healthy food has to be more accessible, more available, more affordable. And those are big problems right now because they're not. So in these places like KFC, the fast food places, millions of people eat there every day. Some people, it is well, they have to. Some people in the areas that they live, if they're living in underserved areas or food deserts, there's a lot of these places. And that was one of the problems that was covered in They're Trying to Kill Us, was that, the people that live in underserved areas are often forced to eat fast food. So what we really need to do is eventually, and hopefully soon, we can get a fast food chain that is entirely plant-based. I know there's a few of them out west, but right now there's not enough people that would go to these places at this point to make them feasible. So I feel like we're in a transition period now where if the food, people are going to eat what's available. And right now I see that having these, even though places might cook them with the chicken nuggets, that's the only option that's available at this point in time. And there's nothing wrong with insisting that they cook them differently. In fact, I went to 3 different KFCs and they all said they didn't cook them with the chicken, same oil anyway. So I was surprised to hear that. At least that's what they told me, and it didn't taste like it. I remember what chicken tastes like from 7.5 years ago or more, and it didn't taste like it. Now, the biggest problem I have is probably the breading on these things. I don't think the breading is probably very healthy, but it's one way of eating that some people do depend upon. And the other issue is, let's get more education out there. Let's get plant food, whole food, plant-based foods more available, more accessible. And get it in front of people, get it in front of people's faces. The two foods I make that I've been making so far are more healthy comfort foods. I make a vegan quiche, and I do have vegan butter, vegan cheese, and just egg in it. And granted, it's not an entirely whole food plant-based, but there are vegetables in it. There's walnuts and oats on the bottom. And so to me, it's like a crossover food. I think there's the 100% pure plant-based foods, and then there's the crossover foods that are needed to get people from eating plants instead of animals. And that's how I see this, the KFC nuggets. Because if you go into the store, the same thing, into one of these places, or like the Burger King, they will microwave it for you. And, so that's great. But we have to understand that 90%, that's the closest percentage that I got from a lot of different articles. About 90% of the people buying plant meats are not vegans, and they're not vegetarians. They're mostly flexitarians. Millennials are really being into it. So I don't see the KFC nuggets as a solution to helping everybody go vegan. I see it as a crossover food that at least people in these places now, they have an option that's at least plant-based. And are we going to expect these, I call them fast food places. I don't even call them restaurants, actually, fast food places. But some of them aren't that bad. Like Taco Bell, you've been able to get some beans and rice and veggies, and it's avocado, and it's a pretty decent little burrito, and it's cheap. So that's how I see that. But I think that you're right. We shouldn't accept less than what we know is vital to have a healthy society. And that's actually like a whole nother issue, even, to how do we reach people like that? Because I go into restaurants and I study restaurants and I study menus and I see what people eat, and people are so far from eating healthy, and they don't even know that. They think they're eating just fine. And so I think that's a good stance for me to end on.
Thanks, Nancy. Conscious Eating Consulting agrees with Dr. Mills. We need to insist on a higher standard for all foods. You want to add anything to that, Dr. Mills?
Yeah, so I want to be crystal clear that I am not saying that I'm against these chicken nuggets being offered by KFC. I mean, I think vegans love junk food too, and that and I put that junk food in quotes. I think vegans would love to be able to stop off and get some chicken nuggets at their local KFC. I just think that we have the right, and I also think that we have the power to insist that they be prepared in a manner that keeps them vegan, not just for us, but for also for people who are flexitarians or who want to try something vegan. Because if people are saying, you know what, I want to try a vegan product, then let's make sure they're trying something vegan. Because if we allow KFC or and this is one of the reasons I've never done the Burger King Impossible Burger, because they slap it on the same grill that they just put that nasty, dead, bloody beef burger on. And I've used this example with someone else, and it may be because as a Black man I'm sensitized to this, but for me as a vegan, for a place like Burger King or KFC to say, oh yeah, I'm going to give you something vegan, but I'm going to cook it in the same apparatus or on the same grill that I cook dead flesh. That's like in the South when they used to tell Black people, yeah, you can buy food here, but you have to go around back
right
and to get it. It's like, you can kiss my, what? I mean, I'm not doing it. If I can't come in the front door and be served with respect, then I don't want it. And if you know that I'm vegan, if you know that I don't eat animal tissue and I don't eat animal secretions, then you can set aside a fryer, you can set aside a portion of your grill to dedicate to preparing the plant-based products without cross-contamination that is not asking too much, it is not expecting too much. These are billion-dollar companies. They can afford to do so. And ladies and gentlemen, we are the fastest growing group. We have a lot of economic clout. Why are we willing to just give away that leverage, just because they said, here you go. I made a post that a lot of people apparently didn't see. I said, Big Meat said hi, and the vegan movement's dress went right over our head. I mean, it's like, why did we give up the goods so easily? We should demand that we be treated with respect. And then I want to come back to this whole idea, because people say, well, these plant-based faux meats are so processed. I want to point out that Stanford University did a head-to-head comparison between meat-based burgers and Beyond Burgers, and it was a crossover study, meaning they had two groups, had them on meat versus Beyond Burgers for 4 weeks, and then crossed over at the 4-week period and had the group switch. And they showed consistently that when the people were eating the Beyond Burgers, they lowered their cholesterol, they lost weight, they dropped their blood pressure, and they lowered their levels of TMAO. So while I'm not saying that, this is all people should eat, or that these things alone constitute a health food or healthy diet, they can be part of a healthy diet, and they are definitely healthier than meat. So, they can be part of a healthy diet, but we should insist that when industry comes to us and says that they want to cater to us, that they cater to us in a manner that is appropriate to the lifestyle that we're living. Because I'm telling you, if we allow them to start fudging on what they're offering to us, pretty soon we're going to have almond milk that doesn't have almonds in it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Mills. Thank you for tuning in. Bernadette Session, she has a comment here. Truth, tell it, Dr. Mills. So they're happy to hear your statement. So is veganism, should it really be an all or nothing? Like, you're going to give us the whole package, or you're not going to support this at all? What do you think, Nancy?
I think that veganism by default means non-commodification of sentient beings. I wrote a whole blog on this, and I posted it on Facebook. So veganism essentially is an ethical basis, whereas plant-based food is about health. And they go hand in hand. They support each other very well. But the problem is the world that we live in today. It's just inundated with animal products, animal use, animal abuse, more than I ever realized until after I went vegan and I started learning all these things about how so many products have, animal stuff in it. So we do our best to avoid what we can. I love the point that Dr. Mills is making, and I just wonder, how can we practically implement that and actually get them to change for us if we, in a place like a fast food restaurant, if we really do have that much leverage power when most of the people buying it aren't vegan. But that's true. I think they definitely deserve to have the plant-based food cooked the way it should be. I'm just looking at practicality. What can we do right now? And is it worth, telling people they shouldn't eat it until it's cooked separately? Like I said, I went to 3 places and they all cooked them separately, and they can probably do that for you if you ask. The same thing with the Impossible Burger. They'll put it in the microwave, and I think that eventually, as more and more people do become vegan and do go after these foods, the thing that I look at, like these plant-based meats, as a vegan, we chose to not eat products like this. I call them products of violence. We chose not to eat meat, yet we love to eat things that look just like the products from an animal.
And we get questioned about that all the time, Nancy.
Yeah.
Like non-vegans will question us all the time. If you're vegan, you don't want to eat, why are you eating things that look like meat? That's a question.
Why.
I can answer that question.
Yeah, well, let me finish and then we'll let Dr. Mills run over this one. To me, it's an attestament of the power of culture and habit and familiarity and normalcy. Because now, like, we can go to a restaurant and everybody else around might be getting a burger and I can get a Beyond Burger. And I think that it's just an attestament of the power that normalcy has and habit and culture on food choices, that vegans would actually enjoy eating that food. And like Dr. Mills said, that food was is designed to make it like plants anyway. So it's the other way around. I'll let you go on with that one. But that's my decision about it, because I'd be perfectly happy. I do not need to eat animal meat, plant meat. I really don't. I'm absolutely happy without it. And I often look at the stuff and I go, God, this looks like a dead body. This is like violence. Why am I enjoying this? But I do, but not a lot. I mean, I feel like any kind of meat should be down to 10% or less of our diet.
I tell you one thing, learning what I learned.
Yeah.
Learning what I learned from the plant-based nutrition course, I tend to, it's whole food plant-based the majority of time for me. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Mills.
Well, eating things like burgers and all of that is really a case of dietary Victor Victoria. The movie Victor Victoria was about a woman pretending to be a man, pretending to be a woman. And as I alluded to earlier, what we do with animal tissue is we take it and we skin it, we cut it, we shape it to look like plants, and then we drain it of its blood, we cook it to make it firm like plant tissues, and then we cover it with plant products to make it taste like plants. So we're actually making the animal tissue mimic the look and flavor of plants, which is really what our brains want. So in fact, we're trying to make the meat look and taste like plants. We cut it and shape it into these hand-sized firm objects that resemble edible plant products. So it's not the vegans who are trying to make their foods look like meat. It's the meat eaters who are trying to make their foods resemble plant products. People kill me when they talk about, those plant meats are highly processed. I'm like, are you kidding me? A hamburger is the most processed thing you can eat. It looks nothing like the cow it came from. I'm like, if you don't think a hamburger is processed, you go out into a yard and have a conversation with a live bull and get some ground beef from it. Okay? I'd like to see that happen. You, with your bare hands, you go get some ground beef from a bull, and let me see it with just you and your hands, and let me see what happens. That's a conversation I would love to see. Okay, it's highly processed, not gonna happen.
Right. Okay? Just like the hot dog. Just like the hot dog.
Right.
People have no idea. This is something else that we talked about in the Facebook too, of what's put into these animals. How the animals are bred. They're not a natural species. They're bred in completely unnatural numbers. Horrible things. They have to be treated with so many pharmaceuticals and drugs and substances to just make their bodies viable for sale. And then once they're slaughtered, the flesh that would normally decay has to be treated so it doesn't. So there's nothing normal. There's nothing natural. There's nothing whole or about animals
whatsoever. I mean, it's treated with carbon monoxide to make it pink. The chicken is injected with fluid that contains carrageenan, all sorts of fillers to make it plump up and look juicy. I mean, people have, which is another thing that kills me when people go, I'm not going to take the vaccine, I don't know what's in it. You don't know what's in that chicken you're eating.
You have a point.
It is so filled with chemicals and garbage. You have no idea what you're putting in your body, yet you eat it all day long. So, I don't want to hear it. Animal tissue is the most processed nonsense that people eat. And cheese, looks nothing like the milk that came from the cow that
Right.
people tortured and abused to get it from. So don't talk to me about process, because animal foods are the most processed, tortured, twisted items that people ingest. And they're chemical laden, they're full of hormones and preservatives. And this is why people are dying, and the hospitals are filled with sick people. And that I can attest to as a physician.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Dr. Mills. I just wanted to take a quick break to talk about the Healthy Kids MoCo bill. So Montgomery County is working on a bill to have lower sodium or no sodium, low sugar, no sugar items, and water and plant-based milks, beverages offered in restaurants. So make the healthy choice the easy choice for our children. Hashtag Healthy Kids MoCo. And if you want more information on that, there you can send a text to the number that's running on the ticker right now. The restaurants, well, that's Vegan Restaurant Weeks, but the number that you want to send to text options to 46839. Text options to 46839 if you want to support this Healthy Kids MoCo bill. They need this bill in every county and every state. Thank you for that.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about too. Like, we have to get the plant-based foods much more available and accessible, and then maybe we can get these fast food places to serve better food too at some point. They just want to sell what people buy. I mean, that's
exactly. I mean, it's all about, the numbers and bottom line. So what are we saying is the best? What do we feel is the best, most realistic approach vegans should take towards creating a more vegan, equitable society with all that's going on, with all these products that are coming out and everyone's differing views? What is the best, most realistic approach to this?
Well, let me start off, because I say that we should insist that if a company is going to offer us an allegedly vegan product, that it should be an unadulterated, uncontaminated product, because we know how American businesses are.
So how should they do that, Dr. Mills? What should they do?
It should be a product that contains nothing but plant products, that is processed in a way that does not cause or allow for cross contamination, and that has no non-plant additives, and that is prepared in a way that does not involve the use of animal products, so that the product is completely vegan, and only involves the use of plant-based products, so that we can feel confident it is a truly vegan product. And that may require a couple of extra steps, that may require them spending a little more money, but you know what? They have the money, they can do it, we're worth it, and we can insist on that, and we should, because otherwise we're going to end up somewhere down the road with a bunch of adulterated products that will cause veganism to lose its specialness and its uniqueness, and I fear its true health benefits, if we end up with a lot of products that are ultimately mixed with all sorts of animal detritus. And the corollary to that is, I don't know if people have been paying attention to what's going on in New York, but this whole thing with Eric Adams and his being vegan, and it turns out, I occasionally eat fish.
Yes, I heard that. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's what happens. You open the door and somebody sticks a foot in the door, and that foot has a fish on it, and it's like, look, you don't need dead animals. You don't. So why do it? we can be true to what we believe. We can be true to the plant-based lifestyle. We don't need to kill other animals. We don't need to eat animal products. We can live a plant-based lifestyle, and we will be better for it. The world will be better for it, and we won't cause harm to other creatures, and we will have the least impact on our planet.
Thank you for that, Dr. Mills. Conscious Eating Consulting said maybe we need a certification for restaurants, like on packages of the packaged foods, so restaurants stating, yeah.
Yeah. I always look at labels, especially when somebody's
like
in the restaurant. Yeah, in the restaurants, like the restaurants that are introducing these plant-based
and on packages too. There are some packages that have a officially plant-based, and depending on the company, there's some companies I know they know what vegan means, and I'll trust if it says. But I look at labels all the time.
Well, this has been a really great conversation. I mean, we could spend all day.
We need somebody to go in like Carrie Nation with a hatchet and take down stuff that isn't really vegan. We need that too. You said this was vegan.
Well, maybe we should start a petition then to KFC.
Yeah, because that was the other thing, Nancy. The fact that the three places that you pointed out that already have set aside the cooking, that shows that obviously there is some pressure already, and that they're willing to do it. So I think that if we bring that pressure to bear, that they're willing to work with us, and we just have to make it known.
Right.
It's kind of like when your spouse won't pick up their socks out of the middle of the floor. If you make it clear to them, that annoys the heck out of me, they'll pick it up.
Right, you got to say something. So the overall answer to this question from each of your points of views: do animal rights vegans care about their health? I'm going to say, yeah, they do. I mean, the priority is to reduce the cruelty and harm to animals. Overall, they do. I've heard ethical vegans say it sometimes that they don't care as long as it's not hurting an animal. What do you say to this question, Nancy? Do you think they care?
It's hard for me to speak for other people, what everyone else says. I think most people do care about their health, at least to some degree. And some people are maybe going to eat more junk food as a vegan, or what some people call junk food, other people think is still pretty healthy. Everybody's on such a vastly big spectrum, because 100% whole food all the time is, not everybody's going to do that. I think because looking at our culture, what people are culturally used to when you go out with their friends, or when you go to restaurants, what's the norm is already a compromise from that. So I think generally, most people do care about their health. But I think the point that from the ethical point of vegans are making, saying, look, if this is going to help the animals, I had even said at first, I said, I would make that sacrifice if buying these nuggets, even if they're cooked in the chicken, I would make that sacrifice if it meant that it was going to help them be successful. But I don't think we need to do that. Like I said before, most of the people that buy these things, and I'm thrilled, like 65% of Americans eat plant-based foods, including the meats and the dairy, on a regular basis now.
How can people connect with you more, Nancy?
Oh, my website, botanicuisine.com. BOTANICUISINE.com. I think it's written by my name there. Should I type it in the comments?
You can. Dr. Mills, what's your answer to this question? Because you're an internist, you see people all the time. I don't know what percentage of vegans and non-vegans you see in your office, but
right. What I want the animal rights vegans to know is that the healthier they are, the better they sell veganism to people who aren't vegan. And that will help the animals. So, in other words, if they themselves stop are junk food vegans because they don't want to hurt animals, but they look like crap and they're always sick, and their life is a mess. That's not a very good selling point for veganism. But if they eat healthy and they're the picture of health, and they don't get sick, they don't have colds, they're always full of energy and living their best life, their family, their friends, their coworkers are going to say, man, I need to do what you're doing, because that's the way to live. And that will be the best selling point. That will be the best advertising card for protecting animals that they can show the world. So if you don't want to be healthy for you, be healthy for the animals. Okay?
How can people connect with you, Dr. Mills? How can they connect with you, Dr. Mills?
I will direct people to my website.
Okay.
Dr. Milton Mills, plantbasednation.com. Kind of long, but it's very straightforward. Dr. Milton Mills, plantbasednation.com.
Is doctor spelled out, or is it DR?
Oh, no, it's just DR, Milton Mills, plantbasednation.com.
Plant-based. I'm putting it in Plant-based Nation.
Yeah, DR, no dots, no, just DR, Milton Mills, plantbasednation.com.
Okay, I got it
and
right.
You can also find me on Facebook, Milton Renee Mills, and that's it.
And we got a couple of comments.
RENE Mills. My avatar is a suit and a hat and no face.
It's too cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. Alan, thank you for tuning in. The terminology plant-based is ambiguous. I saw a product labeled plant-based because the food under the cheese consisted of plants. Plants form the base of the product, and that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem for me too, because when I'm looking at plant-based, I'm thinking like it's a plant-based product, not that there's going to be any dairy or eggs.
We got to read food labels.
The term was hijacked. And anytime something goes mainstream, it's going to take on a life of its own. And we really need to get people moving away from eating animals as quickly as possible. So I look at there's the whole spectrum of food, and nobody needs to be told that, Oreos are junk food. I mean, really? Nobody knows that.
We know that. Lynn, thank you for tuning in. Lynn says Lynn became vegan for health and then learned about animal rights and now focuses on that as well. Lynn loves Dr. Mills. Thank you all for this wonderful conversation again. Lynn, thank you for tuning in. We have another comment coming in. Yeah, I'm a vegan who started out not caring much about my health, but now I want to be healthy so that I can help animals more. Thank you for tuning in, Elliot. Before we leave, I just got to shout out my sponsors, because they're the ones that make this happen for me. I appreciate Veg Fund, Welfare World, ETC Impact, the folks that Eat the Change, Mercy for Animals through the People's Fund, nutritionfacts.org, which is a site where you can find all your nutrition facts, Women Funders and Animal Rights, Stray Dog Institute, Collectively, which is based right here in Baltimore, Maryland. Love those guys. Black-led organization supporting Black-led organizations. And Default Veg, which we should be moving to, defaulting to veg and letting people choose if they're going to eat meat options. So shout out to Default Veg for that. Love those guys there. This is great. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day, because I know everyone is busy. Dr. Mills expressed he had a long day at the office. So again, but you started all of this with that post again for the second time. So I appreciate you. Is there any last thing you want to say before we leave out?
Just eat plants, be healthy, and don't be afraid to insist that people treat your lifestyle choice with respect.
Respect it is. All it is about is respect. We just want a little respect, baby.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Conscious Eating.
We're done going through the back door, okay? We're vegans.
Go vegan. Everyone, talking about vegan, Maryland Vegan Restaurant Week is starting in March. So if you don't know about that, you need to go to veganrestaurantweek.org, March 4th to the 27th. Restaurants looking in, or restaurants right now that need to be signed up for this, please tell them to go to veganrestaurantweek.org and sign up. It's going to be a fun time in March, so you don't want to miss it. It's a time to bring your family out, whether they're vegan, non-vegan, and try some new dishes and a new experience and new things. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, please be well and be safe. Sending blessings your way. Have a good one.
Thank you.